Good morning, everybody. It's Chris here from Serene Education with the 4 majors analysis update for the 16th of August 2011. Hi folks, looking at the euro against US dollar on our daily. I've put in all the lines, etc. You'll notice there's a lot of support and resistance in this pair. You'll notice at the hard right edge over here, for example, we had a lot of indecision, and the past 3 days you've seen price revert to the upside. However, price failed to break this trend line, this governing trend line, that's this ceiling level, and we've seen a pullback. However, notice that price is now tested, or has tested, the previous resistance level that we saw, that you can see here. There's definitely some sort of resistance level at this 14,3700 mark. Are we going to see price just pull back on this and then reattempt of the highs? We need to see a break above 14,4500 and a close to indicate to us that price is happy now, and we should see price continue to rise, ideally with 14,5500 being tested, and ultimately the high at 1470 before we see the ultimate one here at 14,8500 being tested very, very soon. So you can see all I need now is the CTC is in my favor. Great, I've got a blue arrow, blue candle, and the CTC on the daily is all right. However, I need to see a close higher than this intermediate downtrend, which has been governed by the ceiling level here. A break and close higher than yesterday's high of 1447.10 would definitely indicate to me that we're going to see further upside, and I'd be looking at 145500, 14700, and ultimately 1485.50 as our next possible targets. A failure to do so, and a failure to break higher, and it falls over, we have to see price at least staying above these highs, the previous highs that we saw here at 1437.75. A break below that would probably more than likely see price testing the 1430 mark quite soon. Notice we have, if you just take into consideration this upswing here, you'll see that price, or the trend line, is roughly at the 14,300 mark. So a break and a failure to rally above the 14,3700 would see price testing the 14,300 mark, and ultimately a break below that, we could see price testing the 14,1700 mark way down here, where we saw lots of consolidation at this area. Next pair is the sterling against US dollar. Let's have a look at the daily. Here again you can see a lot of consolidation, followed by a break to the downside, and then a full retracement of all that. So bearish, followed by a complete turnaround in price action and a bounce higher. That bounce coming just above a prior support and resistance level. You can see here, for example, roughly around the 1610, 1200 mark. Clear indication of resistance and support in the past, and we saw a bounce. Now, where is price likely to hit to? Well, you can see that price action as we seek out. If you look at the previous high and take the previous, you can see that the ceiling level is being tested as was the case with the euro against US dollar, and we've seen price action pull back during the Asian market session. This, we need to see price, if anything, finding some support at a prior support and resistance level. You can see here, for example, a lot of hesitation, ceiling level, support, followed ceiling level, and now we've had a bounce just this morning on the Asian market. Notice we've also had some prior support here as well as back here. So CTC's in our favor. Okay, so what we need to do is look and say, well, cool, if price is still looking for further upside movement, we need to see price staying above this 1634 or 33 mark intraday to see another attempt of this trend line. Failure to see that materialize, could see price pull back and close lower than this level here, and by doing so it's breaching this small support and resistance level, and then we could see price reverting to the downside, and our next possible target will be here roughly at around the 162500 mark, because we've had price support and resistance in this area in the past. A break below that would see price returning back down to the levels that we saw with the previous bounce at 1200. Okay, so for this to materialize and to continue going up, we need to see price close well above 16400 to start with. By doing so, it'll break above this this downtrend, and it would also confirm to us that there's likelihood of further upside movement. Our first possible target would be previous resistance, roughly around the 16,4500 mark, which is 50 pips away at this level here. If you saw a break above that, would see the roughly around the 16,5200 mark being tested, and ultimately the next possible goal, the ultimate goal, would be the 16,700 mark. So price needs to rally and close higher than 16,400 to start with. So the next daily candle of this day can push through here, close higher, would definitely confirm that we're likely to see a further bounce to the upside. Daily trade above 16,4500 would be more the case for further upside movement. Failure to do so, we could see another return to the downside, but if price had to close higher, we would like to take some profit intraday to at least the 16,4500 mark. If price fails to break above here and consolidates, it needs to find support at 16,3300 in order to see another reattempt of the highs. Failure to do so and a close lower than 16,3300 would ultimately see price rolling over as it's done in the past, and we must look to the downside intraday as possible targets. Ideally 16,2500 would be one of them. The second one would be down here at 16,1200. So on the hourly chart, you can see swing highs dictating an upside movement, and then the pullback during the Asian market session after consolidation going through the US session late yesterday afternoon. We've seen price revert to the downside. Intraday, you can see that the trend swing lows depicting downside movement, the consolidation. We are now at a prior support and resistance level I mentioned on a higher time frame, the daily. So, and it's also, by doing so, testing the uptrend that we're seeing intraday for this pair, because while we've seen price moving to the upside, it's been forming higher swings, and now you can see prices reverted back to this area here, which happens to be in correlation with the upswings. A failure to break or failure to find support at 16,3300 would, as I said, see price reverting to the downside, and then we should be looking at 16,2500 as our first initial target, because we've had price support and resistance in the past. And then ultimately a failure below that would see 16,1900 and ultimately down here at 1610 or 1611. So you can see the intraday targets. A bounce here, a consolidation, a bounce, because it's trading above the institution moving average now on an hourly. You can see the 200 period moving average below us. It's classified as bullish, and as long as it stays above 1633, we should still be looking for upside movement. First of all, our first target, which happens to be the previous high of yesterday, ultimately back up as I mentioned, and our target would be the 16, this area at 16,4500 and ultimately at 16,5200 and overall at 16,700. Next up is the US dollar against Swiss franc. Let's have a look at the daily time frame. Steady ground, yes. Well, over the past 4 days we've seen the US dollar climb against the Swiss franc. This is primarily because the Swiss government has intervened and placed in measures so that we saw the actual they started making it difficult or unattractive to buy the Swiss franc. Ideally, the Swiss government does not want a strong Swiss franc in a very weak eurozone, because it's surrounded by the eurozone countries, and having a very strong Swiss franc just does not help with its GDP import-export figures. So it's been trying to stem that negativity by implementing these rules, and so we've seen the US dollar gain strength over the past couple of days because of that. Yesterday in particular we saw upside movement. However, we saw price action occurring at the bottom end of the wick, so we're seeing a slight consolidation or slowdown in this upside movement that we saw over the past 3 days before yesterday's candle. And then going to the last night's Asian market, we've seen, and going to European session open this morning, we've seen a small consolidation, so a bit of hesitation creeping into this now. It'll be interesting to obviously, we've still got some more space between now and the major trend overall. So if it continues, if it can push higher and fails to break lower than yesterday's low, we could see price still moving at least up to the 81 or 81.50 mark over the next couple of days. We have got a blue candle arrow, but we're still very much negative for this. We've seen blue arrows before, and this has all been null and void because we still haven't traded above the major trend. And I think we only see the blue candles and the CTC going blue once we see a trade above the major trend. So I don't think we'll see anything until such time as we're trading well above at least the 8300, or even in this case the 8600 mark. So there's still lots more for the price to do to get above those areas. And until such time as it's doing it, then we're still only seeing a consolidation in a very bearish trend. So you can see not too long ago we had some hesitation at the 80 mark, which happens to be 4 days of hesitation there. Price action rallied to that point yesterday, but failed to materialize, and then we saw price revert to the downside during the latter part of the US session. So if it gets above here, then we're testing that. So you can see there's a lot of resistance above us. However, as long as it stays or can trade higher than the 7750 mark, then we should be looking for a further consolidation to the upside. If we look at the intraday charts, you can see that's momentum driving. You'll notice that if I take my projection, you'll notice this initial move here, we saw a slight consolidation and a next move. This move here was 100% of that. You can see it tested the 100% fib mark, and now we've seen the pullback. And as I mentioned, this is a 4-hour chart, by the way. As I mentioned, price needs to stay above this level now, because you can see we had hesitation here in the past. We had a slight pause followed by the ceiling level, and then we saw further drop off. So now it's broken above this resistance level. If it can find support now, and if we look at where price is on a fib retracement level, you'll notice that we are testing the 50. It's trading at the 50%. It's been to the 50% retracement of this first stage movement. If it can stay above that 50% move at 77.50, then we could see another attempt at least to the 80 mark, because we've been there before. And you can see the institution moving average just popping its head up there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens today. Well, there's a lot of news out today for the US dollar this afternoon. Particularly we have building permit figures, we have housing starts, import price month-on-month figures. They're expecting a better import price month-on-month figure. The previous figure was negative 0.5. They're expecting a 0.0%, which is 0.5% up. Housing starts expecting slightly low on that from the previous figure. Building permits also slightly lower than that. What else do we have? We have the industrial production month-on-month figures. That could be very important, because if the production figures are up from previous month, then it tells you that there is growth in the market. In this case, previous figure was 0.2%. They're expecting 0.5%. So they're expecting growth in the industrial production month-on-month figures. So if that happens, then we're going to see the US dollar continue to strengthen. Lower than expected figures would obviously see the US dollar crash some more, obviously because of the situation is at the moment now. I would just reaffirm that there is definitely issues in the US to start with. So if we have figures that come out bullish, then we'll definitely see people trading that news, looking for any sorts of positive news so they can look at a rally on the US dollar. Last pair of the day is the US dollar against Japanese yen, and pretty much going sideways. A lot of indecision over the past couple of days. Almost a full week of indecision. Look at the spinning top, doji, spinning top, spinning top. All this happening at the bottom end of this trading range where we saw prior support area. This is an all-time low for this pair, the US dollar against Japanese yen. We saw a bit of intervention or money policy easing coming in to try and stem this negativity to the downside, but that didn't stack up. We saw price rally, however, to a prior support, a very strong long-term support and resistance area at the 80 mark, but that failed to stack up, and we saw price reverting to the downside, and we've seen US dollar testing these lows again against the yen, and it'll stay down these levels until we see some sort of positiveness coming out of the US market, which doesn't seem to be looking all that likely. So the yen continues to strengthen against its US counterpart, and we're seeing a lot of indecision now. So if you're seeing a lot of indecision, we want to see a decision. We can't not trade indecision. We have to see an indecision candle. You'll notice here throughout all these trades over here, if you saw a doji, you want to see a decision bar, and then you act on it. Indecision, decision, then you act on it. It's the same. Over here, a lot of indecision at a support. Okay, so the case is if we see a bearish engulfing candle, then we're going to see lower swings for this pair, which is ultimately looking very bearish at the moment now. And if you look at where the previous swings are to the downside, you can see prices testing it. So if it broke below this there, and we're in free fall again, and we'll be testing lower lows that we've ever seen on the US dollar Japanese yen. However, we saw a bullish up candle, then we're seeing a positive bounce at this level, a very strong support because it's failed to break lower than this level on a number of weeks, or a number of days, considering to weeks, and we see a bullish engulfing would only tell us or confirm that there's a potential for another retest of the highs, and we'd look at the previous resistance and support levels in the past to give us an indication where we're likely to go to. So, want to see a decision candle. Failure to see a decision candle would materialize, and still seeing this indecision at this level here until further notice. So, are we going to see that decision coming out of the US market this afternoon with the figures that are coming out for production, industrial production, manufacturing sales, month-to-month figures, etc.? Let's wait and see. So bide your time on the US dollar, Japanese yen. Don't trade it until we get decision this afternoon, and then look to see if you can trade it going into the Asian market session this evening. That's it for today, guys. Hope you have a fantastic trading day. Please ensure that you follow the rules of the CTC if you are trading it. Back it up with strong management rules. And most importantly, keep your trading simple. Make sure you plot your support resistance lines. Look at where price has been trading in the past to see where it's likely to go to if you see definite breakouts occurring. There is a lot of volatility out there, guys. We have seen a lot of consolidation over the past weeks. This is going to continue until we definitely see some sort of breakout or out of these consolidation ranges on larger time frames. If and when we do get it, then we'll see more clearer trading presenting itself, but until such time as that occurs, then we should be looking for further consolidation to remain a factor in our trading. All that remains to say is happy trading and trade serenely.